So today we've got a nice day, little damp but not too bad. We're going to show you how to pressure wash a deck. First thing you want to do is assess the situation. The downstairs of this deck is actually in not too bad a shape, so that'll be pretty easy to clean up. But then we're actually going to go and do the upstairs, which is quite a bit more worn. Now what you want to make sure you do is you want to make sure that you start at the top and work your way down. You also want to make sure that you clear anything out that could get messed up from debris. Now we're not going to be using chemicals today, but if you use chemicals, it's even more important to get the stuff cleaned out from underneath the deck. Okay, so today what we're going to be using is we're going to actually be using a Vortex pressure washer. It's called the Prosumer Plus, and basically this unit is a prosumer unit, which means that it's not quite professional grade, but it certainly could do some big jobs, and it's definitely on the high end of what you would call a consumer grade. So it's definitely doing anything you need to do at the home. What we have on this machine is a couple things. One, we have a triplex plunger pump, and this triplex plunger pump allows you to rebuild it. That's one of the things with a lot of pressure washers. The pumps are pretty much so disposable, and if they go bad you can't rebuild it, but this one is rebuildable. It also has a lot of other options on it with a cooling hose underneath, which is down here. That cooling hose actually allows you to go into bypass mode without overheating the pump. One thing when you're getting started with any of the Vortex pressure washers that have the oil on the top here, this is for the pump oil, is that it usually comes with a red shipping cap. This is a vented cap, this is a non-vented cap, so when you ship it nothing leaks out. But you want to make sure you remove the red cap and put in the permanent cap. It's well marked. That's something you need to get started. The other thing you'll want to do is make sure you check your oil and you have a good full oil, and then make sure you have clean gas, and then from there you hook up the hose and make sure that you have a good water flow. It's also very important that when you are going to pressure wash that you wear the right clothes, because it's tempting on a warm day to throw on your flip-flops and walk out with some shorts on, but this pressure washer can put out 2,750 psi and 3 gallons per minute. Now, those are important numbers that we can talk a little bit more about later, but the important thing is that can really do damage to your skin if the wand gets loose, or if it starts banging around and you get a slice across your foot. So having the right shoes on and having the right pants, and being also very keen with protective glasses in case something flies back and hits you in the eye is all important. And there's going to be enough spray going on probably that it's going to keep you cooled off with the mist anyways. So when you're getting started, the key is that you have to have water to the machine. That's always a clean water scenario where you want to have the best water flow you possibly can. Vortex actually builds their pumps in a way that there's straight shots with Y filters on the bottom, and this Y filter allows you to clean that out in case debris gets in there. Many times in the spring people will have dirty garden hoses and they hook them up to a pressure washer, and that'll get debris into your pressure washer real quick. And it's difficult to get that out once it's in there, but there are screens built in here and a Y filter in order to make this work. The other thing that's really important is to have enough pressure. So if you have low water pressure, or if you're running off a well, usually you'll be okay, but you want to make sure that you look at your manual and have enough pressure flowing through there. Usually if the garden hose, when you hold it up, if it's squirting outward and not just dribbling down, you're going to be okay. But make sure you have enough pressure so the pressure washer always has clean, fresh water flowing through it. Next, you want to make sure that you hook up the quick connect. Now when you hook up your quick connect, what's really important is that it locks into place, so it's nice and tight. If it's not tight, then what ends up happening is many times it'll just pop off. Okay, so now that we've got it hooked up, we'll turn on the water and make sure we have good flow. Now that our water is turned on, we can definitely take a look to see if we have flow. So the best way to do that without a tip on is actually just pull the trigger, and you can see that there's good flow out of the wand. Another question I get many times is how much pressure and flow do I really need to clean my deck properly? And the reality is you only probably need about 1,500 pounds of pressure to do a good job on the deck. However, if you start with a small electric unit or a small gas unit that only has low flow, what it does is it actually creates a lot of pressure in a very focused area, but you can't move enough dirt. So you will be cleaning a very small area at a time. It'll be like using a pen to paint a wall versus using a roller. Okay, so what's very important to understand is that you have to have a good combination of pressure and flow, and that's really where the difference comes in. Today we're going to be using a tool that actually, because we have enough flow along with the pressure that we have, it's going to make this job much quicker. So it's important to understand that you have pressure and flow, and the more flow you have, the better ability you have to clean faster. Next thing you need to do is determine which tip you're going to use. And with this unit, it comes with 4 different tips. Now, tips really regulate your pressure. A lot of people don't realize that, but the tip is actually what creates the pressure and regulates it at the actual end of the wand. So with here, we have a 0 degree tip. And the 0 degree tip is actually one that you would use here, the red one, for blasting. It's a straight on tip, there's no fan to it. Then you go out and you count out from there different degree angles. So this one is your 15 degree tip for heavy cleaning and closer in, and then the higher you go to here, the 25, and then to the 40 degree tip, the wider swath you're going to be able to cut and clean, but also the less pressure you're actually going to have at the point of contact. For pressure washing a deck, I would start with a 25 degree tip, and if you have light cleaning, you might move up to the 40, but for the most part, you're going to be at 25, and if you have something real stubborn, you might actually move down to the 15. So we're going to take the tip out, and we're actually going to insert it into the end of the wand. Now you want to make sure that it clicks in nice and solid and that it's fastened, because these will shoot when you turn on the pressure washer if it's not locked into place. Okay, so now that we're going to get started, what we want to make sure first of all is that your on-off switch is flipped on so it has power. And secondly, you want to make sure that your gas is open. That's this switch here. So you want that to be open. And then you're going to make sure, if you want to try to choke it, if it hasn't been started recently, you have the choke on, which is to the left. And you want to make sure your throttle is about 3/4. And with that then, we'll give it a pull. One of the nice things also is that you can actually, because this unit comes with a 50-foot hose, you don't have to take the unit up the stairs. So we're going to go ahead and pass the wand up this way. It keeps the pressure washer out of the way, and then we can wash the deck up top without having to deal with having the pressure washer up there in our way. Now in this scenario, what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to start in the far corner and work our way back. Now we're not using chemicals today because this pressure washer is plenty powerful enough to do this without using chemicals. If you have a deck that's very old and has a lot of buildup of different stains and stuff on it, you might want to use chemicals to get started, but we try to avoid it as much as possible. They're not great for the environment, and if you have a pressure washer that has enough pressure and flow, you don't really need them. So we're going to start in this corner and we're going to start working our way back. You also might want to think about starting on your railings or higher areas and work your way down from the top. And that's always a good methodology, to always keep working from the top down and from the furthest corner in. So now what we're going to show you is actually how to use what we call a broom. And what this broom will do is extend your spraying surface to 3 nozzles, and it will actually help you increase your efficiency and get the job done 3 times faster. This is not always going to be perfect for small spaces, like maybe the cap rail of the deck, but when you get to larger surface areas, you'll see how much this can actually help speed up your job. Another important thing to note is that after you get done doing your upstairs area, that you want to make sure that you clean off everything below it before you move on to your lower area. So essentially here, you'll want to figure out what tip you want. You can probably go back to the same tip you were using, the 25-degree angle, or we also have another connection that you can put on, and this tip is actually called a turbo nozzle. So the way that the turbo nozzle works is it's actually very similar to a pressure washer tip, but what it does is take a 0-degree tip and it actually rotates it and gives you great blasting power. So this is good for cleaning brick surfaces or cement, but you want to be careful not to get too close. And sometimes on wood products it'll actually leave a swirling look, which you can get rid of, but it's just something to take into consideration. Okay, after you shut down your unit, make sure you always release the pressure that's built up in the hose before you take off the tip, and that way you won't have any extra pressure with that tip. After you've gotten everything done and cleaned up, you disconnect your water and your hose. You can coil up your hose and you can set it right here in the special spot that's been designed for it. And then also, if you're going to be leaving the pressure washer for any period of time, you want to put some kind of pump saver into it. And what that does is it coats the valves and all the mechanisms inside the pump, and it also prevents, if you're in a cold climate, from anything from freezing and cracking the pump. This is a very important feature. It's a very simple thing to do. You essentially just attach a plastic bottle to this fitting here, and you pull the cord once for the starter. It pumps some water through and some of the fluid, special pump saver fluid. That takes care of your pump and will make it healthy for many years to come. Something else to keep in mind is how good of shape your wood is in. Down below we had a deck that was only a year or so old. When we come to the upper deck here, we actually had a deck that was much more porous and older wood. And with the older wood, you're tempted sometimes to really get deep down in. But as you can notice here, as we close up, see the porousness in the wood. What will happen is that you can tear up the wood very easily in your attempt to get it clean. So you don't want to overdo it with your pressure washer and get too close with your tip and tear that up, because that will actually cause you problems and damage the wood even more. So be careful with that. In heavy duty situations, you might want to use a chemical there to help bleach the wood versus trying to blast it out. So there we are, coiling up the hose. Nice clean deck. Hopefully you can use some of this information we put on this video today to help you out. And if you have any questions, you can also find this information and more information at Vortex, that's with 2 X's, pressurewashers.com.